Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we discuss two or three interesting tech topics and get you on your way with some fun facts. I hope you remember what happened 44 years ago today. 54. Holy cow. I am way behind on that. Oh, man. Orrin, how are you
Yes,
doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Orrin is one of our summer workers that works in the library system. You're up at North Regional Library up on Broward College North, right?
Yes, yes.
And Orrin and I have been having a long conversation here about flight simulators and everything, and it's going to be really cool. So we've got a story for him. I didn't know this ahead of time, but I found a story that he's going to be really interested in.
Okay.
Uh, and the point was, today's the day that we landed on the moon.
Mm,
This is the anniversary, the very first time that Apollo landed and made it to the moon, and it's a big thing.
it
And
is.
also, by the way, we have the moon rock here at Main Library from one of the Apollo astronauts, the only piece of the moon available to the public to see. But we've got some other stories to cover, so let's talk about that. The first one is from Big Think, and I've actually got two stories from Big Think this week because they have some really interesting things that they go out there on, and just to give you some basic ideas to start thinking about and then continue on. So Occam's razor. Did you know about this one, Orrin, before I sent you the stories this today? Did you know that phrase?
Um, no.
So Occam's razor, it's named after a monk from back in the Middle Ages whose basic philosophy, and the easy way that most people talk about it, is that it's the simple explanation is best.
Mhm,
That's not really what he said. That's not really the principle, but it gets you to the core idea
yeah.
of when you're looking at something, what is the most straightforward explanation without getting into crazy conspiracy stuff?
Mhm,
And I picked this one because of the space stuff today,
mhm,
and that it actually applies to several of our other types of stories that we always cover on this show of, is this a new cool thing, or is this just rehashing something else, and or why should you care about it?
mhm.
So the moon landing, Orrin, you believe we landed on the moon?
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. See, I mean, all common sense people do.
Mhm,
No one really seriously thinks with any real good backing that
mhm,
we did not land on the moon, because Occam's razor here, which is easier to believe, that you had 150,000 people working together to land us on the moon, or 150,000 people that all kept a secret for 54 years to pretend that we landed on the moon? Which one is more believable?
the first one. The first
So,
one.
yeah. So, and that is why one of those things happens. And another one, it's a got some really nice little graphics here to explain some of the ideas behind why you should pause and think when you're reading some news stories out there.
Mhm,
And in the show notes, I'm going to drop them in right now for you. There's a link to two different articles on this so that you can get an idea and read for yourself. That's what we want you to do. Make your own decisions and do this, which is actually what our next story is about, which is Common Sense Media, which is a really good, reliable company. And we'll talk about that in a second. But this one is, they're doing one on AI.
mhm.
What's your first instinct on AI, Orrin?
First things think on AI, Chat GPT.
Okay, there we go. And so, Common Sense, here's their website here, up there for it, is a company almost like Consumer Reports, that they go out and they rate technology, websites, apps, etc., and see whether these are suitable for young adults, for kids, for whatever, helping parents come up with guardrails for whether they should allow their kids to use and do these things. ChatGPT is a really good example. They do not have a rating yet. That's coming. That's what the news article is here.
Mhm,
But Common Sense is a group that goes out there and says, hey, you should be aware of this. They are very anti banning anything. They do not want anything banned. They want everybody to be smart. To What's the simplest solution? How do you solve this? How do you come up with this for that? what do you think's going on in your life with your around AI or other things, or in that maybe your parents don't understand that you do?
Well, I mean, in my life, I would just say like school assignments, something as simple as that, really. My parents, they are aware of it. Of course, them being parents, they traditionally say, don't use it, you don't need it, do the work by yourself. And it's kind of the same thing because in schools, now they're implementing, if you, they like the teachers have, especially the English teachers, they have, when you submit the some assignment, if you used AI on it, if you submit the assignment, they'll be able to tell that you used AI, regardless of if you paraphrased it, if you try to change up a few words, it will pop up as AI and
Yep,
straight
just
zero.
like the
So,
plagiarism checkers. Yep.
hmm
Yeah, and that's the idea is when you know that this is something that you have to be able to use, it's a tool to use, and it's not a replacement. You can't replace the paper you have to write with using ChatGPT. You could use it to maybe get some inspiration, but you won't be able to replace that kind of stuff. That's what the people like common sense are out there doing, is helping parents, helping people make decisions about all sorts of different technology out there for what's going on, including just what kind of thing channels or whatever that are kid approved, quote unquote, on YouTube, as an example. Kid approved does not mean just dump the kid in front of the TV and let them watch for 20 hours at a time.
yeah.
So here's the two stories that I think we are going to spend some time on.
hmm
So AI for drug dealers. You read this article, and then I found out you actually did something about this in school yourself. So fill us in
Yes.
on this, or and tell us.
So, during the last school year, a teacher was like, "Hey, we have a final paper at the end of the year. Come up with your own paper, like topic to write the paper on." And I didn't end up doing it on this, but I still had the information because I was gathering it just in case I needed to fall back on. So I actually have like an idea about AI with drug dealing, and from what I gathered, it's like the police forces across the nation, soon to be across the world when it's not proven yet, but across America so far, they are trying to implement AI in their investigations, like especially when it comes down to digital narcotics. And it's not only for drugs, they also use it because, the black market is a huge web source for things such as child pornography. You have the selling of people on there as well, opioids and stuff like that. So they just basically, the article that I found was discussing how the police force can use the AI to speed up their investigation process, and how more efficient it will be in terms of, instead of having all the human resources. Because if you do it the manual way, you're going to have to find the human resources to do it, and not only that, but you have to find the ample time it takes to eventually lead onto that. When AI, it searches the dark web, it pulls the data, and then all you have to do is sit there and sit through and be able, it will give you an accurate representation of how to, track it down. Even though, yes, that will take more time, not more time, but it will take some
No,
time,
it's
but
more time. Yeah.
it is more time.
But here's the thing is, again, what we just said in our previous thing. It's, this is a tool that in the right hands could and should be used to help people, like you said, tracking down human traffickers. Everyone thinks that's a good thing. Let's stop that. Let's stop child pornography. Any of those kinds of things. This article here is talking about using the AI to read all the traffic camera data and track license plates, and then correlate all those for this. And the article leads off with them arresting someone that nobody would have seen him doing anything unusual, except that when he was arrested, now he is carrying X amount of cocaine, X amount of cash and weapons, etc., as he's transporting and doing these things, going back and forth. something that wouldn't have been noticed unless they analyzed all these traffic patterns, analyzed all these things, knowing these are existing drug dealers. This is how they drive. This is where they go, these routes, and when they go and do these routes. So to find all that kind of stuff. But I also am concerned with the idea of who has permission to go use these things and do these things. And, as one of the pull quotes from the article here is, it's all up to the individual police officer, which to me is not a really great idea. I want some kind of rules and regs and privacy restraints put in place. I don't want you to just be able to do this without getting a warrant. Like if my car gets flagged in your system for whatever reason, I want you to go get a warrant from that point on and have to prove to a judge why I should be subject to your investigation so that it goes on. That's what we want. That's part of the judicial system, right?
Yes, true. But then, even then, with obtaining a warrant, there's still going to be a way that an officer can obtain the warrant.
Yeah.
Just because they want it. Like, they don't even have to nowadays. And I'm not saying the police force is, dusty or dirty. There are genuinely good cops out there. But sadly, in today's world, and we've seen it past, present, and probably, hopefully, not in the future, but for now, we might see it in the future, they can easily obtain without having a basis for it. But
yeah,
hopefully
and that's I'm always on the privacy angle of things. I'm like, let's have some rules in place. Let's put some guard rules down so that we know what we can use. Great tools. I want them, but I don't know. Now, I didn't know about this article, but I had a whisper that this next article might have interested you. We have flying cars, real flying cars out there.
Yeah.
The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. I say that a lot. This is a car that, to be fair, you could not go drive this tomorrow. But the FAA has approved it, which means they can now go into production, which means as soon as 2020, late 2024, early 2025, people will be able to buy and fly these around the United States.
Yeah, I think they gave the certification to ALEF, if
Yeah.
I'm mistaken. Yeah.
Yep. And this is a drone-ish type shape thing where you can kind of see here in the picture where it's got four wheels, it's got a little center cockpit. It is perfectly able to fly and go and do, and then it lands and just drive on the streets. Unlike some other of these, it is not a plane that has been modified to a car. This is built from scratch and fully electric. No hybrid, no gas, no nothing. So it'll solve a lot of those other issues for that. Would you fly this one? We were talking about you being going with flight sims and going into becoming a pilot. Would you want one of these? Would you want to fly this? Money's
Sure,
not an option. We've got plenty of money. We got the $300,000 for you, Orrin.
Well, then for sure, yeah. I mean, I would see it as an opportunity. Like, be like, okay, cool. Like, if I can get up out of bed, realize I'm late to go do my actual job of flying a plane, and be like, all right, well, instead of taking, the freeway or I-95, hop in my car and just fly all over that. And
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would give it a try for sure.
Now, here's the problem that I have with this. One, I have mentioned on the show here before, my objection to flying cars is I don't trust people driving in 2 dimensions. Now you want them to drive in 3 dimensions. I'm not positive I want to see that happening. And this is not one that is going to take the market by storm and everyone's going to be driving one. Carries 1 or 2 people, not so bad. 220-mile range on the ground of driving, not too bad. And 110 miles in the air flying, not too bad. Except it's got a top road speed of 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's lacking there a bit.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm good. I'm glad this is coming out. I'm glad that we will have real designs that are out there, not the more modified experimental ones that have been flying for a little while. I mean, I don't know. If you go look for it, you can see several different models out there that you can fly. Flying cars exist.
Yeah.
It's just you need a regular driver's license and you need a pilot's license, and then you need this special plane that converts to the car where the wings all fold up and down like origami so that you can drive them around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you still need runways.
Yeah.
So
It's not easy to build a runway in your backyard.
no. People, yeah, a little bit more than the distance to hit that 88 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But how successful do you think something like this can be as a starter?
As a starter, uh, as a starter, I feel it will definitely be on the news. So the success part of, getting it out should be fine. And if we're talking about in terms of sales, as a starter, I don't, my personal opinion, I might be wrong, but my personal opinion, I don't think it will be successful as a starter. Like, say, for example, I have a company, Zenger. The boss of Zenger, he was known to be like commuting to his job, like commuting to work in a flying car. And then you have a man such as Thomas Patton, was the first ever man to commute to work in a flying car, the first ever out of everyone. So, I mean, we're seeing the executives of these companies build the cars and get to fly them, test them themselves. My personal opinion, though, if one of these companies wanted to take down the likes of Tesla, because if they're electric, we're starting to see a lot more of Teslas on the road,
Mm-hmm.
more predominant than you would see a Toyota or Mitsubishi or a Chevy. My personal opinion, they would not be able to take down Tesla
No,
for the foreseeable future. Now, it's a
but
different
it's a nice
story if
goal.
it is a nice goal. It's a perfect goal. But in my opinion, they would have better chances of gaining more popularity if they were to merge with Tesla, because we know Elon Musk, his breakthrough with electronic cars, it's nothing short but a brilliant. You can't deny it, even though sometimes they're badly made. They are badly made, but it's brilliant. So as a starter, not so much, but if they merged, then
Yeah,
they have a chance.
yeah. This is going to be an interesting one. I agree with you. This is one of those CEOs commuting by helicopter type thing, and
Mhm.
it's a little bit cooler to do this than it is a helicopter.
True.
But I'm not positive they're going to like the 25 mile an hour thing
No,
either.
they
We do have one more story we're going to cram in here at the very end of the show because this is something that we all need, even though you don't know you need it.
Mhm.
So, CRISPR, the gene editing tool that hopefully you're familiar with, out there, and North Carolina State University has used CRISPR to create a brand new tree, sort of. I mean, they've taken poplar trees, which are, what they are because the wood pulp from them is used in your grocery bags, in packing material, and all sorts of stuff like that. But it's also kind of labor intensive and growth intensive and stuff. So they've gone through and changed how it not there's not forests of these yet, but they're greenhouses of these so far.
Mhm.
And they've gone in and changed 21 of the different genes inside of the tree to reduce the ligand, which is the stuff that holds the cells together in a trunk
Yeah.
of how all the cells in the thing. And they've made it so that it is so much. I want to make sure 40% more effective when using for wood pulp, etc. That's a pretty nice jump.
It is very impressive.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and this is one of those small science step forwards
Mhm.
that kind of happens in the background,
Mhm.
and you're like, well, yeah. So they're making trees. People, we've been changing trees forever, but like you said, we've been able to, now that we're taking this technology and we're applying it to, just like we talked about applying AI. Now we're applying the CRISPR technology to this problem with, making the planet better.
Mhm.
All of a sudden now, here we go. We can create 40%, 40% better on trees is like a huge improvement.
It
And it's
is.
not like, oh, in the year 2035 we plan on developing something. They've got these growing in greenhouses. Now it's the process of how do we put this out for the rest of the world to be able to use, put it out there into real forests and show that it can live through multiple life cycles and everything. So
Yeah.
it's going to be great. Thank you so much for being here, Orrin. I want you to take a moment though and tell everybody, what kind of stuff do you do at the library right now?
Okay, well, I mean, right now, when I come in, I sign in, I help senior librarians with programs. So we have, story time. We have different types of story time. Today, I hosted or co-hosted STEM story time, where we
Nice.
basically read the kids a book about airplanes, aviation, and we had them, like a little activity, make hoop airplanes, like
Oh,
make a plane out of just nothing but a straw and some paper.
yeah.
And it was a big success. The kids loved it. And yeah, I not only help with programs, I also do some shelving, some shelf reading, making sure the books belong where they are. And when we had the VR, I was the one who got familiar with it. So if a patron came in, it's like, okay, I can help you get on to a roller coaster for the kids, and then
Yeah.
for the adults or even the kids who want to do Google Earth, we had them just roam around New York City. So
That's
that's what I
it's
am
a very
doing.
cool thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
But
It
yeah,
is.
and that's what we're featuring. If you hadn't noticed, in the last couple of weeks, we're featuring all the young people who are working in the library this summer to
Mhm.
give everybody out there a chance. The library's sort of cool place to come hang out. And if you're in high school next year, you better start paying attention in the spring. Look up to snag one of these jobs. We have a limited number,
Mhm.
but and it's a paid job. We're not talking volunteers here. We're talking regular real pay.
Mhm.
I think you got a few bills you want to pay, right, Oren?
Well, if the bills you're talking about are, video games, then yeah, sure,
That's
100%.
good enough for me. That sounds great. If there is anyone you'd like to see featured on our show or a branch you'd like to see featured one week, reach out. Creation Station at Broward.org. We'll see everybody next week.